I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there, Price of Reason here with a series review. Since its premiere a few weeks ago, Disney Lucasfilm's live-action show Ahsoka has been a major disappointment. Between the poor writing, generic storytelling, cringy dialogue, disregard of lore, overabundance of girl bosses, and lack of male characters, the first 3 episodes of the show have ranged from boring to laughably bad. Still, I was hoping that as we were reaching the halfway point of this series, that perhaps things would pick up a bit. Well, I just watched the 4th episode of Ahsoka, and unfortunately, there hasn't been much improvement. In this video, I will discuss the plot, what I didn't like about the episode, what I did like about the episode, followed by my official score. Episode 4 starts with Sabine trying to contact Hera to tell her that her and Ahsoka are stranded on Seatos, the planet where Lady Boss Morgan and Sith Guy are located. Ahsoka once again walks around with her arms folded. This reminded me of a great video that Robot had recently made about how all the ladies on this show keep walking around with their arms folded and how ridiculous it looks. And after seeing that video, I found myself laughing when it happened again in this episode. Anyhow, Lady Boss Morgan and Sith Guy are standing around. A robot has picked up the location of Ahsoka and Sabine's whereabouts, so they send Sith Girl to find them and get rid of them. Sith Guy is a bit uneasy because due to his experience, he doesn't underestimate Ahsoka. Sabine is also nervous as she's preparing for battle. Ahsoka reminds Sabine that sometimes they have to do what's right regardless of personal feelings. I wonder if this sentence will be relevant later in the episode. As Ahsoka and Sabine are on the ship, Huyang the robot gets attacked by evil robots, but for some reason, Ahsoka and Sabine don't notice. But after he shoots the power line to the ship and the power goes out, they realize what has happened and they go help him. Once they've taken out the evil robots, they decide to leave and he tells them that it's best if they stay together, which is a very basic observation, but whatever. Back at her headquarters, Hera decides that she's leaving her ship to go help her friends, even though the senators told her not to. So basically, last episode she refused to help them because she was told not to, but now that it's pretty much too late, Hera is like, fuck it, I'ma go help my peeps, yo. Hera takes some other pilots and ships to go with her on this unauthorized mission, including Rebel Miyagi, a pilot that we've seen in The Mandalorian in the past. And for some reason, Hera also decides to take her young son Jason on the mission because she figures a highly dangerous situation is a perfect place to bring him. Lady Boss Morgan and Sith Guy play with the map, again. Meanwhile, Ahsoka and Sabine run into the forest and encounter Sith Girl and that Inquisitor type we saw in episode 2. Sabine fires at Sith Girl, which is a bit weird because it seems like Sith Girl would be able to deflect the fire, which she does. Ahsoka then easily strikes down the masked Inquisitor type that we initially saw in episode 2. Sabine then tells Ahsoka to go find the map while she stays behind and battles Sith Girl. Now this is just plain silly. Considering that Ahsoka actually does have Force capabilities, why didn't she just take care of Sith Girl first? I mean, Sith Girl already bested Sabine once, and without Force capabilities, it doesn't seem like Sabine is much of a match for her. Anyhow, Sith Guy is waiting for Ahsoka in that same stupid place that he's been standing for about 3 episodes now. He asks her why she abandoned Anakin back in the day, but Ahsoka tells him that she doesn't want to talk about her past. Sith Guy then tells Ahsoka that bringing Thrawn to start a war is a necessary evil for a greater good, although it's not exactly clear why he believes that. Sith Guy and Ahsoka then walk slowly and stare at each other at a turtle pace. Meanwhile, Lady Boss Morgan is apparently waiting for her computer to find the coordinates of Thrawn's location from the map. Simultaneously, in the forest, Sabine gets her ass kicked. She can't use the Force and Sith Girl mocks Sabine for not being a Force user, but Sabine then fires little missiles at her from her Mandalorian suit. Back at Sith Guy's mountain lair, Ahsoka grabs the ball map and disrupts the transmission of coordinates, but the map burns her hand. Sith Girl then arrives, but Ahsoka easily neutralizes her by using the Force. Why didn't she do that earlier when she could spare Sabine from putting her life in danger? Yeah, don't think about it. Sabine then magically shows up just as Sith Guy has Ahsoka cornered, and she tells Sabine to destroy the map. Sabine hesitates because on one hand, the map may lead to the evil Thrawn, but it's also apparently the only way for her to find her friend Ezra Bridger. Sith Guy then knocks Ahsoka off a cliff, and then he's left with a showdown against Sabine. I would think he could just use the Force to take the map away from her, but he just stands around for some reason. Sith Guy then offers Sabine an alliance because they both want the same thing. He promises that he won't harm Sabine if she joins him, and that she could finally reunite with her friend Ezra Bridger. So she gives him the map. But then, Sith Girl wakes up and chokes Sabine until Sith Guy tells her to let her go. Why didn't Sith Girl choke Sabine in the forest earlier when she had so many chances to do so? Yeah, don't think about that either. Sith Guy returns the ball map to its original location, and now Lady Boss Morgan is able to finally find the coordinates to Thrawn's location. Hera contacts Huyang, who tells her that they're on Seatos and need assistance, and Hera tells him that they're already there. Now that they have the coordinates, Sith Guy destroys the map so that nobody could follow them. Lady Boss Morgan fires up the hyperspace ring, while Sabine is brought aboard her ship in handcuffs. The hyperdrive is turned on. Jason, Hera's son, then says, "I've got a bad feeling." This sentence is obviously a callback to Lucas-era Star Wars, but coming from this little twerp, it really doesn't have much meaning. In fact, it's borderline cringe. Huyang is then left alone with no communication with anybody. Ahsoka then wakes up in what appears to be the world between worlds, a concept that was introduced in Rebels. And in this seemingly dreamlike state, Ahsoka meets a Revenge of the Sith-looking de-aged Anakin Skywalker, and then the episode ends. Let's start with what I didn't like about this episode. Number 1, the pacing. The episode may have felt a bit faster paced than the previous ones, but still manages to feel super slow at times. So many scenes could be cut down to about half their runtime, because in this specific case, longer doesn't necessarily mean better. Number 2, writing. The writing may be slightly better here than in previous episodes, but honestly, it's still not good enough. Much like in the previous episodes, the writing always feels very clinical and unimaginative, moving the characters and plot along from A to B in a very bland, predictable, and lackluster way. Hera suddenly flip-flopping and doing what she was asked to do last episode when it's too late is really dumb, and it's a type of flip-flop that only happens because the screenplay requires it. It doesn't make sense at all when it comes to the actual writing of the Hera character herself, as I believe she would have joined her friends from the start. The other characters also aren't really fleshed out. It's not 100% clear why they are doing what they're doing, and without anybody for the viewers to connect with, it's all just a very boring affair. Nothing exciting, uplifting, or inspiring. No sense of wonder here, and once again, it just doesn't feel like Star Wars. Number 3, lightsaber scenes. When you think about the type of Star Wars lightsaber duels we've seen in the past, this one feels like cheap fanfiction. While the original trilogy duels were more simple and straightforward, they really knew how to create an emotional build-up for these scenes, but here, there's zero emotional build-up, and while the prequels certainly had their flaws, they featured some of the best lightsaber battles of the franchise, far superior to anything we see here. This is really disappointing. With the modern-day technology, time, and budget that Dave Filoni had to work with for this show, there's really no excuse here for such poor lightsaber choreography, and this is a major issue. Number 4, cliffhanger fail. Seeing the de-aged Anakin at the end, looking similar to what he did in Revenge of the Sith, was probably supposed to be the highlight of the episode, leaving people in suspense, but somehow, it doesn't work at all. Maybe because we know that this is just a dream or a vision. It just feels like they shoved Anakin in here right at the end, just to get people to watch the next episode, but with no real build-up, it just feels random. It's something that I would expect from franchise killer J.J. Abrams, like we saw in The Force Awakens. It's a storytelling hack that I call the carrot and the stick storytelling, where the show dangles a carrot, and we the viewers are expected to be the donkeys. Number 5, green screen. I know that Lucasfilm uses something called the volume these days, which is basically like an electronic green screen on steroids, but unfortunately, it's too overused here. I'm not saying that this tool couldn't be useful in some cases, but it often creates a very small feeling because there are only so many places that the actors can go. I really would have liked to have seen a combination of practical effects in real-world locations, along with CGI effects and even green screen, but the way it appears here, it always feels too overproduced, like some type of video game, and it really hurts the overall escapism. If I had to say something good about this episode, it's that the late Ray Stevenson is hands down the best actor on this show, and even though he's given very poor material, he still does his best to deliver it well. Amongst all of these sourpuss ladies, at least Stevenson brings a little bit of gravitas and character here, but unfortunately, it just isn't enough to save the episode. At the end of the day, Ahsoka continues to disappoint. It's a show that actually had some potential, but it fails to capture the former magic of this franchise. I've always considered writer and creator Dave Filoni a hit-or-miss guy. I liked some of his work under Lucas in the Clone Wars, and I liked at least some of what he did in Rebels, but based on this show, it appears that he doesn't fully know how to make the transition from animated to live action, especially without somebody like Jon Favreau supervising him. Even with Favreau, The Mandalorian Seasons 1 and 2 still had their issues, but I had at least considered them somewhat enjoyable. This show is not even on that level, and while Andor had its issues, it was also better better than this. When it comes to live-action series, only the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Book of Boba Fett, and Mandalorian Season 3 were worse than this, but those shows were awful, so it's really not saying much. If I had to give a grade for this episode, I would give it a 56 out of 100, which means that it's a fail. Again. What did you think about Ahsoka Episode 4? Did you love it? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos. Brum.